My name is Susan Hassall, and I am very, very fortunate to be the acting CEO here at Hospice Waikato. I've been in that role for 10 weeks. Prior to that, I was on the board. I have been on the board at Hospice Waikato for 6 years now. And so when the CEO left suddenly, I was asked if I could come in and take up the role for a few months, probably until the end of this year. I just retired from my previous role, which was the headmaster of Hamilton Boys High School, where I'd been fortunate to be headmaster for 25 years. So coming into a hospice environment from a secondary school was quite an interesting shift, moving from the world where we were preparing young men to live their lives to a world where we are supporting older people in the main, or people who are reaching the end of their life's journey, to cherish and have some very rewarding days in their last few weeks and months. It's been a shift. However, I think that there are some very real similarities between the two roles, because in both of those roles, my main purpose has always been to make sure that people get joy from their days and that they get a sense of happiness in whatever world they find themselves in. So it has been a very real privilege to move into this role, and I've been here for just 10 weeks, but those 10 weeks have taught me so much about what is so special at hospice. I think I went into being on the board at hospice as my way of volunteering, because I've also been on other boards. I'm still on the board at the University of Waikato. I'm on their council, I'm the pro-chancellor there, so education's been a big part of my life. But being on the board at hospice has been something that I have felt was my way of making a small difference to this world. But when you're on the board, you really don't see just how special this world is. And I think I say to people, what's different about being the CEO than being CEO in a business or in another part of our lives. And the difference at hospice is that you're blessed by having a staff, every one of whom is totally committed to the vision. So as a CEO, I don't have to spend my time trying to encourage people to believe in the vision or to understand the vision. This is a world where the vision is front and center of everybody's participation as an employee or as a volunteer. We all understand why we're here, and that makes such a huge difference to the culture of the organisation. It makes such a huge difference to the people we care for, because all of us are here to make their time here as good as it possibly can be, and to make the lives of their families as happy as it can be as they move together with the person they love through that final part of their life journey. And so being here has really made me understand that everyone, right through from myself to the leadership team, to the volunteers who work in the shops, to the healthcare assistants in the inpatient unit, they're all here to help in whatever way we can to make this better. So it's a privilege to be here, and every day brings me a great understanding of the love that is a really big part of the world of Hospice Waikato. And when we think about what it is we do it under the duress of not having the full financial support of Health New Zealand. Health New Zealand can't really provide the level of financial support that hospice needs to do the job well. When we think about it, hospices have only been around in New Zealand for a couple of generations, and before that, there just wasn't this. There just was nothing there for families and for people who are dying as a support structure. And so, hospices are a very real and important part of the whole fabric of what life is all about. And yet we can't do it without the support of our communities. We can't do it without the support of our volunteers. We have hundreds of volunteers here at hospice who save us literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We can't do it without the support of our communities, who are so kind in the support they give by donating to our shops, by buying through our shops, by just fundraising for us in whatever way they want to do, and just giving and being prepared to continue to give so that we can do what we're able to do for our people who live in our world, for the time that they have. And we're also very, very privileged here at Hospice Waikato to have the only paediatric palliative care world in Rainbow Place. And the Rainbow Place part of hospice is a very, very special place. We have over 50 families in our care at the moment for children who have life-limiting illnesses. Some of them are with us for years. Some of them are with us only for a few short months. But those children's lives are certainly made better and richer for being part of Rainbow Place and hospice. And so I believe are their families. Because as CEO, I hear so often, every day, from all of the families who are part of our world, just what a difference our staff are making to their experience with their child, with their loved one, whatever stage of the journey that person is at, we're able to make a difference. And that brings a lot of joy. People often say, isn't working at hospice a sad thing to be a part of? But that sense of making a difference is just so rewarding, and recognising how important those last few days of a loved one's life makes such a difference too. We have a mantra where we say that hospice supports every person to live life well until their last breath, and that's true for our children, and it's true for our adults who are part of their world that we share, and that brings its own sense of joy and reward to those of us who work here and those of us who are part of the team. It's a fantastic team, it really is. And I've seen firsthand the impact that team can have through my own experience with my husband, who passed away tragically for us a year ago last week. My family and I were very fortunate to have the support of hospice through James's last few weeks of life. Sadly, we didn't have him longer, but we found out that he was terminally ill when I was actually at a conference, an international conference. I was about 2 hours away from delivering the keynote address at the time, wearing my old hat as an educationalist, and was rung by the palliative care people to tell me that James's situation had worsened and that he was now terminally ill, and that they were going to take him to end-of-life care and he was going into hospice care. And so as soon as I'd done the speech, I drove straight back down, and hospice over that time was just superb to us. They provided that opportunity for us to feel confident and calm in the steps that we were taking, which you don't feel when you suddenly find out that the person you've been married to for 35 years is only going to be with you for a few more weeks. And without them, it would have been a different experience for me. And we were told up at the hospital that James would probably live for about 8 weeks. And sadly for us, he only lived for 10 days. And that is what I do tell people often, that when you are given a prognosis for the person you love, you don't always get the amount of time that you're told you'll be given. And so every day becomes precious in those last weeks and months in a person's life, and precious for them and precious for their families, and having hospice there makes it so much easier for you to ensure that their lives are better, physically better, because they're able to manage the pain and able to manage the fear that patients go through, but also spiritually better, because they allow us as the family, I think, to share the part of the journey with that sense of being safe. And if we didn't have that in our lives, then our memories of that person that we have loved for so long would be changed in those last weeks. And I think that's a gift that you can never understand how precious it is until you go through it yourself. That those final weeks were as beautiful as our lives had been all the way through, and that's precious. And James was so much at peace. He loved the hospice nurse that came to see him. He could ask her any questions that he had. He just felt comfortable. And when James died, and when people die in our inpatient unit under the care of hospice, you see that beauty. You see that sense that you are cared for as people, as a family. When James died early in the morning, and people often die at sunrise, I understand, when their breathing changes and they just slip away. It was exactly what he wanted to happen, and it happened that way. And we were rung and told, and we were down in the end of life care unit place within about 45 minutes, but they'd already put rosemary on his bed. They'd made him look beautiful, and they were with us right through that time, and they let us stay as long as we wanted to stay. And then when we were ready, and James left, they were all there. They lined up. They sang for Kāre Mai. They had rosemary for us. They hugged us. They didn't know us well, but they shared their love, and that's part of the dying process. That is something that I'll always be grateful for James, and he would have loved it. He loved For Kāre Mai. I didn't ask them to sing that, but that's what we sang, and we all sang with them, and it was a memory that my whole family will share. And last week we went back and we thanked those people again for what they'd done for us that year ago. It was a very special part of the process, and you don't get that without a lot of people providing a lot of love, people who you don't even know, and that's what makes hospice such a very, very special place. And that's why I feel grateful that I've got the chance to make a little bit of a difference here. I might only be CEO for 6 or 7 months, but every day I feel grateful that I do have the chance to be here, and maybe to make a little bit of a difference from a CEO's perspective by supporting the staff to be as good to people who are going through that situation I went through, as good to them as they were to me. So that's why I'm grateful to be here, and that's why I will always be grateful to Hospice Waikato for what they do for all of us. It's a world where Hamilton is a better place, the greater Waikato is a better place for having this organisation here, and everybody who works here understands that and does their absolute utmost to make sure that it continues as good as it can be, and better than before. It really is a wonderful place to be.